the Great Patriotic War. We call it the Second World War. But for the Soviet people, it was not just a war. It was a struggle for existence. Since its beginning, it will soon be 70 years. Soon our kids and our grandkids will only know about the events from books and movies. Survivors of this war are way over 80 today. Every year, every day, we have less and less of them around. And this war gets further and further away, and there is less and less truth left about it. Memories of the last living veterans and participants in the series. My Great Patriotic War. Yuri Nikolaevich Tranquiliki, born in 1925. Reconnaissance Platoon Commander. Lieutenant.
When I was 10 years old, a comrade of my father brought me as a present this German helmet. During WW2, he was a cavalry rider, and he chopped the head off this, I don't know which rank, some sort of officer rank soldier, chopped his head off and took this helmet as a trophy. He was probably looking for a present to gift to a 10-year-old boy, and so he gifted this helmet to me. In addition, he said he had it bad in that war and wishes so I never experienced the same during the WW1. And he did not guess right, because in 6 years, W2 has begun. I mean the Great Patriotic War.
In 1941, Yura finished his 8th grade in the middle school, and in the beginning of summer, together with his mom, they left to his aunt in the suburbs for a month, in the downtown of Moscow, Tamileno. There, they heard about the war for the first time.
22nd of July is my father's birthday. He arrived from Moscow and says, "War has begun." At first I said, "So what?" My parents' first decision was to go and buy a couple of loaves of bread, went to the store and bought some. That is a reaction to the war. Then there was an air raid on Moscow and suburbs, and this house of ours burned to the ground. Either 2 or 3 incendiary bombs landed on our house. And we have been told by all our neighbors that we should transport all the valuables to the dacha, suburb house. That's exactly what we did, and it all burned down.
To help his family during the hard times of war, Yura, in the beginning of 1942, started working in a factory which produced aviation bombs. This 17-year-old boy had to work on his limits to complete an adult's daily norm, to be on par with the working adults.
Conditions of work were horrendous. 16 to 18 hours was our working shift, not less than that. I arrive home, do not even undress, fall onto the bed, and in the next moment alarm clock rings and I have to get up to work again. I feel like maximum I could get was 6 hours of sleep. It was very hard. Also, we had welding going on. Outside lights were blocked, doors and windows closed, no ventilation at all. In the beginning of the shift, the welding gases can be seen on the ceiling, then on the level of the eyes. Then you have to breathe this milky-looking, stinky air, from which you get immensely dizzy. I had a reservation, but when the summons came, I happily agreed. I joyfully ran to the conscription center, refused to work in that factory, and ended up in the army. For me, conditions of the air I breathed was more important than anything else.
In 1943, Yura was sent to Lieutenant Academy courses of the Western Front. Those courses, unlike military schools, were moving directly with and behind the front lines. The cadets were thoroughly prepared, close to combat conditions, especially that all of the training was done on the post-battle terrain. And after 1 year, in May 1944, Yura, with the rank of a lieutenant, got his first infantry company under his command and was immediately sent to the trenches in the area close to Vitebsk. This introduction with the front line he remembered throughout his whole life and talks about it so thoroughly and in such details, like it was yesterday.
So the trenches in the autumn in Belarusia, it's a swampy area, our sewer canals. We did not enter them, but jumped in the water, like you would jump in the swimming pool, but in the icy liquid clay, plus 2-3 degrees. We were standing in this horrendous clay, to our chest, but nobody was ever sick, didn't see no tonsillitis. What is interesting is that we and the Germans had an unwritten rule: do not shot at night time. We got out of our trenches, undressed everything, squeezed everything, and poured the water out of our boots. And all this wet but squeezed. Clothes was like dry to us. We put it back on, and again we had to jump down into the swampy trenches. So about bowing down to explosions or not, after some time. For everyone it's different, but obviously in the first 24 hours you stop bowing to explosions. You don't pay attention to them, because you see that a person 50 meters further fell down injured, and one who was right beside it isn't alive. So it must be that shrapnel does not disperse evenly. Therefore there must be free zones. That's first. Secondly, it's impossible to constantly duck. Explosions sometimes happen, one after another. Mines or artillery shells. So constantly bowing is impossible. You get bored of it, and it's just repulsing. An officer, commander of a platoon, is not in the back lines, like generals or majors. They are, for some reason, all in the back lines, for some reason. But you must be only in your own line, only beside your soldiers. You cannot be behind, even 100 meters away. You cannot. You have to be in the first line. You just must. 100 meters from the first trenches are deep back lines. We considered them. Not all shells get there, not all mines. It's more peaceful there. There are even some trenches where you can find lit stoves. You can get warm and dry, and so on. You even have places where you can do some washing up. As we didn't wash, we are dirty. And forgive me, lousy. And it was impossible to fight it. No, we did fight with lice. Lit a little fire and held our shirt on top of it. Burned our shirts, screw them. You just hope the lice die with it. When in 1991 I was at the White House, I remembered the front, because there you could smell almost a frontline smell, pungent smell of urine. Nobody went to the bathroom, everyone did their business where they could, yeah? And so all of the front line is covered with very unusual, disgusting aroma. That smell is of rotting bodies. A corpse was floating 15 meters away from my trench. Already bloated, huge body. Unknown which side this man belonged to, as he had no outerwear on him. Only his underwear were on him, dirty white clothes, long underpants and a shirt. Either it's a German or a Russian corpse. It's unknown. Getting him out of there was impossible. First of all, we had no time nor possibility. We would have to do it under fire. You would get shot. So he kept floating, just like that. When the water was rising in this swamp, between our and German trenches, he would float. When water soaked into the soil, he was just laying on the ground. That wasn't the only corpse there. There were many. This one was the closest to our trenches. Nobody took back the dead. This was a job which was done later on. Who knows when? When the stench will get unbearable. Because people after death rot away. Together with their smart or slow brains, they rot away.
That's how the front line greeted this young lieutenant. From the get-go, with no preparation, sank him into the horrifying truths of war. Moreover, positional warfare, when neither side advance but everyone sits in their trenches and shoot each other. In these conditions, chest deep in icy water, Yura Tranquillinki, together with his platoon, spent around a month there. Due to these hard conditions, mental and physical, some of his soldiers began committing actions which could be considered insane, not fearing their commanders, nor death.
18 лет.
18 years old. When I was 17, I got summoned. When I was 18, I was a platoon commander already. It was hard, but I commanded them. I had 45-year-old men. I had Azerbaijan men. Some were from Central Asia. Plus 3 of my men were even from prisons, straight from prisons at the front line. And they were the most reckless warriors. So one of them loved to get up in front of the trench in full height. He crawled out of the front trench. We had a front trench and a back trench. We went to the back to sleep and squeeze out our clothes. But he crawled out of the front trench and sprayed his whole disc at the fascists. After that, he would jump down, and all of us dispersed, because right after that we would get mines coming our way. German mines, of course. I told him, "Stop your jokes like these. Commander, allow me one last time." I allowed him to do it one last time, but the first time he crawled out without any permission. And maybe the most important thing, I am completely certain, in the frontline conditions, a feeling of pity towards your own life disappears. It is irrelevant to you. You will be killed in an hour, or 24 hours, or maybe 48 hours. You already consider yourself doomed. There are 2 options. Either you go to the other side, or you get wounded. And a wound is a pass towards the back lines. It didn't matter. If we played a Russian roulette, complete disregard towards your own life. Russian roulette was played like this. You get a Nagant system revolver, I think, with a drum. You place 1 bullet inside the drum and blindly spin it. You put it to your temple and pull the trigger. And why did you do this? It is hard to explain. During peacetime, there was nothing to do. Just complete disregard towards your own life. Everyone did it. Taking turns, me included. Today it's total stupidity, which could have easily blown my head off, and that's it. We were not afraid of anything, I'm telling you. We had total disregard towards our own life. This is not a game. We are talking authentically here. We did not care when we die. Now, in an hour, in the evening, or tomorrow morning. Here, this one was killed. This one is injured, crawls back to the back lines. Another one crawls back to the back lines injured. We had people disappearing at all times. So we are running in a chain, advancing. Massive shooting started. We fall down, and you immediately start digging to get at least some cover in front of you. Near me, I have a soldier. Suddenly I hear this sound, like a massive walnut just burst. With my peripheral vision, I see this soldier's foot going. Weef goes above, and then slowly, pulsating, it went down. And his head is already gone, only his lower jaw remains. Either a shell got him, or a mine, right in the head. I wipe my face and see his brains on my hand. Here, that's an episode from that war. which occurred every minute. There are many of them.